Welcome back to Will, A Wonderful World. Last time we solved the tennis match that Li Wen and Jimmy were participating in. As always, Li Wen has lots of problems. Unfortunately, Jimmy is now one of them. As you can see, we don't have any stars on here, and that's because I didn't get all the endings, even though I futzed around a bit. It's interesting to see that it looks like Li Wen's got one extra bad ending. I assume these things are bad endings. Or at the very least, they're not S endings, because I think we got an A ending for Jimmy at one point. But there were 3 other permutations I hadn't gone through yet. We won't be doing any of that today, though. Last time, we got 2 more letters, one from Carlos and one from Youngmin. And we've got another letter in the post.
如果时间可以重来，
Strange teacher. Gee, I wonder who that could be. Let's continue the high school drama for a little bit. And then we'll go back to the continuing adventures of Justice Cop and Boy Who Knows Nothing About the World. The last day of the class was art. The last day of the class? The last class of the day was art. I pushed open the door to the classroom and I was shocked by what I saw. What was happening? The room that usually had only a dozen people in it was now almost full. It was like a scene from a beach in the middle of summer. There wouldn't be enough easels for everyone. Just when I was wondering whether I should leave and go study, I saw Jing waving me over from the front row. Why are there so many people today? I sat down at the seat Jing had saved for me. You really don't know anything, do you? Miss Liu is on her maternity leave, so we have a new substitute today. Somebody saw him earlier in the office and posted his pictures on school BBS. He looked so handsome. I looked around and only then did I realize that almost all of the newcomers were girls. Why was Rocky here? What was a boy doing here? Look, Li Wen, we here around here we don't judge people's tastes in other people. If Rocky likes to look at the pretty handsome teacher, Rocky's allowed to look at the pretty handsome teacher. He just still needs to buy you that chalky milk first. I took my phone out and tried to log into the PBS. I found myself unknowingly imagining what the new handsome teacher would look like while waiting for the page to load. Well-made pink shirt, rolled up sleeves, top button unbuttoned, pale and flawless skin, impeccable face from the side. The Wi-Fi signal wasn't very strong and I couldn't look for a long time. Then the front door of the room was slowly pushed open. With everyone staring at him, the new teacher slowly walked across to the podium and softly wrote his name down on the blackboard. Wen Ren. I'll be teaching the art class for the seniors, starting today. I looked him up and down, and I noticed that this Mr. Wen was wearing flip-flops to class. His ensemble also included a pair of casual pants with the legs rolled up, a gray t-shirt, and a wrinkled jacket. Not just that, his chin suggested that he hadn't shaved for days. Yeah, it's a stylistic choice. It's called the starving artist. I turned to my side and whispered to Jing, How is this old man handsome? Jing ignored me. I looked up and realized that the teacher was staring right at me. Oh no, he must have overheard me. Suddenly, Rocky raised his hand and asked loudly, Mr. Wen, how old are you and do you have a girlfriend? The entire class erupted into a loud murmur. Everyone was staring at the teacher even more intensely. Thank you, Rocky, for getting me out of trouble. Mr. Wen slowly took off his jacket and laid it on the back of the chair next to him. 35. The girls immediately began whispering to each other. His response certainly had intrigued everyone even more. Rocky, however, didn't seem to be satisfied with the answer. Mr. Wen ignored the commotion in the room and took a banana-shaped statue out of the accessory cabinet. People with an easel began to prepare their paper. The ones without one took out their sketching pads. The class was going to be over soon. Near the end of the class, Mr. Wen said he would like to pick an assistant from the class. Anybody who was interested could stand up and nominate him or herself. However, he would need to check their sketch. Jing stood up. How brave! Mr. Wen walked over and picked up the sketch. He shook his head and tore it into two halves. Rocky stood up from his seat. I stood up from my seat too. And then the bell rang. Jing was sobbing, and I was completely in shock too. Not only did Mr. Wen tear up her sketch, he even said to her, Are you serious? Did you seriously just draw something like that? I will not tolerate this kind of thing in my class. We were just some regular high school students. We weren't in an art school. Are you serious? Rocky jumped right in front of the teacher. I tried to stop him, but it was too late. Rocky punched Mr. Wen right in the face. Mr. Wen, however, didn't react, despite having just been hit by a student. He simply gave Rocky a glance and walked out of the room without saying a word. Rocky, he was always so self-righteous. The only thing more important in his life might be his ball games. I bet if the bell had rung and the class had been over, he wouldn't have bothered and would have gone off to play basketball. After that, Mr. Wen never came back to the class. Maybe somebody filed a complaint about him. Or maybe I'd always had a feeling that he didn't look like he wanted to be a teacher. The next art teacher always dressed impeccably well. He was also incredibly dull. Li Wen. It kind of seems like Li Wen's problems this time is actually Wen Zhaoren's problem. He's got a bunch of students being inappropriate students. He's not a very good fucking teacher. Seriously, don't ever do that to an artist. Any kind of creative. Constructive criticism is a thing. But, I mean, Li Wen did want an art teacher who dressed impeccably well. Impeccably well. I'm guessing Wen Zhaoren doesn't have a letter this time because he really doesn't give a shit. But yes, we have our second connection. And it seems like the problem we're gonna have to solve is to help Wen Zhaoren keep his job. Let's begin. Alright, well, Rocky would have gone like straight to play ball games if the bell had already rang. So let's move him all the way down here. And let's protect Jing's ego by having Mr. Wen come to us. I wonder if I can like put this after the bell ringing, if that'll help. Because either way, he's gonna tear up the sketch into two halves, right? If he's still going to tear the sketch into two halves, then it might as well be after the class has kind of gone. I also do wonder if he was planning to do that this entire time just to get fired on purpose. But let's give this chain of events a go. Mr. Wen tore up Rocky's sketch and said, "Why don't you bring this to class next time, so everybody can practice with it?" Rocky's face suddenly turned into the brightest red I had ever seen. A minute ago, he'd been acting like the king of the world. What did he draw exactly? You... Ugh! He punched Mr. Wen right in his face. Mr. Wen, however, didn't react despite just being hit by a student. He simply gave Rocky a glance, put down my sketch, and walked out of the room without saying a word. Since then, Mr. Wen never came back to the class. Maybe somebody filed a complaint about him, or maybe I had always had a feeling that he didn't look like he had wanted to be a teacher. Next art teacher always dressed impeccably well and was incredibly dull. Okay, so that was bad. Rocky had a banana as his guideline. I kinda wonder just what kind of phallic thing he drew. Must have been a banana split. Had to have been. Everyone likes banana splits. But let's try this again. If it's bad, we don't get... It looks like if it's bad, we didn't get a way to get out of it except back. We didn't get a way to move on. So... let's have Mr. Wen tear our sketch into two halves. And we'll spare Rocky and his cucumbers. Mr. Wen tore up my sketch, and he even said to me, "I will not tolerate this kind of thing in my class." Jing was frightened and she sat back down. I was in complete shock, and my nose started to feel stuffy. Was that really necessary? You idiot! Rocky loudly cheered. That bastard. I made a face at him. Oh, okay, I guess that was a... You idiot. Oh, okay, done. Done is how we move on. We could certainly leave her with a B, but nothing continues if we leave her with the B. I guess the gold highlights the best ending that we had gotten so far. Alright. There's one more thing that could help with your work. That's history. History? That sounds like something I can use to review all the endings that I've unlocked, right? Smart girl. Every ending you've come across is archived there. When you run into something that's too complicated, try referring to the history for an explanation. Well, I didn't even see what that was, but... No, we've got to fix Lee Wen's problems. Why do you have so many problems? Okay. I mean, it really seemed like Rocky's sketch being torn in half, Rocky being humiliated, was a pretty good ending. I thought it was a pretty good ending. But no, let's get everyone happy. Let's have Rocky stand up from his seat, then the bell rings, and maybe Rocky will leave. And we won't be embarrassed by the guy who owes us chocolate milk. No, it's not too hard. Game, don't mock me. I don't want hints, Okay, from the beginning. I stand up from my seat. Rocky stands up from my seat. Okay, nothing changes, I guess, if I do this. That's why. Let's try having Rocky stand up from his seat after the bell rings then. Oh, I did that already. These are all permutations of us being embarrassed as fuck, huh? Oh, things have changed. That's right. When things change, this thing starts flashing at me. All right. Let's try this. I stood up from my seat. The bell rang. Mr. Wen is probably going to tear our sketch in half, but Rocky's gone. Rocky was not gone yet. I still think this is the best ending. Yeah, so Mr. Wen needs to keep his job. What if he just tears Jing's sketch instead of ours? And then Rocky gets to go. Jing was sobbing and I was completely in shock too. Not only did Mr. Wen tear up her sketch, he even said to her, "Are you serious? Did you seriously just draw something like that? I will not tolerate this kind of thing in my class." Seeing Jing crying like that, I couldn't control my anger. "Mr. Wen, you are way out of line. You need to apologize to Jing." Mr. Wen gave me a glance and picked up my sketch. Boring. Rocky picked up his basketball from under his seat, casually walked out of the classroom, and disappeared into the after-class crowd that was filling the hallway. Other people were leaving as well. There were fewer and fewer people left in the room. I collected my stuff into my backpack, getting ready to leave. You stay and clean up the room. What? I stopped what I was doing and looked at Mr. Wen in disbelief. He handed my sketch back to me. After all, you're my assistant for this course now. He turned away and walked back to the front of the classroom. I then realized that everyone who was still in the room was staring at me. Everyone looked like they were gawking at a circus monkey on the street. What the hell? I had no intention of being a freaking assistant to that guy. Jing put her arm around my shoulder. Congratulations. Let me buy you dinner sometime, you poor kid. I burst out laughing. Well, whatever. Well, that was our Wens Ending. No one got punched, he kept his job, and Li Wen has more problems. The best ending is always give Li Wen more problems, huh? Oh, and one more thing. I have another small tip regarding the history archives. In here, we can browse all the possible endings to a letter. They're displayed on the right. Furthermore, they're arranged in the same order as the small squares you see when you open the letter. They're arranged in this order: S, A, B, C, D, E, F, and the ending with one small I is the one you're currently viewing. I see. I think this could help with my deductions too, when the number of endings increases. Exactly! As for how you want to use it, that's totally up to you. Alright, well, we're still missing 2 endings here. We got the best ending. We got the ending where Li Wen has more problems. No money, just more problems. But we're still missing 2 here. But since we got the best ending, that means we're allowed to get more letters. I kinda want to see how far this high school drama will go. Because we've got another one from Li Wen and Jimmy. Carlos and Gyeongmin haven't had their problems solved yet, so nothing from them for now. It's all her fault. Why are you still doing tennis, Jimmy? Why are you still doing tennis? Alright. Let's take a quick look at what's going on here, because high school drama, nothing else in the world matters, right? Right? Alright, what's your fault this time, Li Wen? I'm Li Wen, a senior at Yingnan High School. Today, the new art teacher assigned me as his assistant for the class, so I had to stay after class and clean up the art classroom. I tried to sneak a few peeks at the strange teacher while I was reluctantly mopping the floor. He was looking over the sketches that had been left in the room one by one, and then throwing them in the trash. It was just the 2 of us in the room. Neither of us was talking. Hey, W! How was your first day? It was my homeroom teacher, Miss Yang, who burst into the room and broke the silence. She said hello to me and held on to Mr. Wen's arm like a little girl. According to what I had heard from Jing, Mr. Wen and Miss Yang went way back. Did she recommend this job to him so she could hang on to his arm? Is that a thing people actually do? It was also Miss Yang who had recommended Mr. Wen for the newly vacant teaching position. I'm sorry to tell you, Miss Yang, that Mr. Wen doesn't really think too much of you. Mostly thinks about his dead loved one. The beautiful Miss Yang was said to be notoriously hard to get. Many male teachers in the school had allegedly been turned down by her. Was she involved with Mr. Wen? I grabbed the trash can and deliberately left the room. When I got back, there was no one there anymore. Someone appeared to have already replaced the barrel for the water dispenser too. It seemed that I could finally go home. Yay! It was starting to get dark when I finally finished cleaning the classroom. I walked out of the school gate and I noticed that Mr. Wen was walking not too far in front of me, going in the same direction. That was strange. I thought he had left a while ago. I didn't want to talk to him, so I stayed behind at a distance, quietly watching his back. Such a bad-tempered and terribly dressed man. How exactly did he become a teacher again? Before I knew it, Mr. Wen had walked into the dark alley that led to my place. However, as soon as I stepped into the alley myself, I suddenly felt that something was wrong, and I immediately backed out. I can't even scold Wens Ending for not having a sense of personal safety here, because he doesn't give a shit. He wants to die. Mr. Wen had been stalked by two men, one in front of him and the other behind him. The one facing my direction was wearing a tank top. He flashed a pocket knife in Mr. Wen's face. I hid behind the corner and tried to peek around it. Mr. Wen took out his wallet and handed it over without any resistance, but his wallet has nothing in it. That was smart, I thought. Better safe than sorry. The tank top guy fiddled with the wallet for a while, then slammed it on the ground. 20? Do you think I'm a fucking beggar? He punched Mr. Wen in the face. Mr. Wen stumbled back and bumped into the guy behind him. He was still not resisting. The tank top guy placed his knife on Mr. Wen's face. Be smart. Give me all your money. Judging from the look on his face, maybe that 20 yuan really was all Mr. Wen had. We were too far away from the main street, and there was no one else around who could help. I suddenly had an idea. I took my racket out of my bag and grabbed the tennis ball. This was the time to test the results of all my nightly practices. Ball toss. Backswing. Please hit the target. Please. The ball was flying at a speed of 180 kilometers per hour. A gust of wind suddenly swept by. The ball was blown off its path by the wind and missed the target. Instead, it hit the back of Mr. Wen's head. Chalk up another count for Li Wen's murderous tennis racket. Mr. Wen fell down to the ground with a thud like a brick. The two men noticed me and they seemed to be just as shocked as me. They must have thought I wanted to kill the man lying on the ground for some reason. The tanked up guy took one step towards me. I began to picture how they would force me into the corner, pull a chainsaw out from behind them. Why is it always a chainsaw with her? And cut me to pieces. Oh no, I couldn't stay there any longer. I'm sorry, Mr. Wen. I screamed silently in my head and ran away with my hands covering my face, leaving Mr. Wen there by himself. Next day, Mr. Wen did not come to class. The school put out an announcement saying that he had been badly injured during a robbery and that he was in a coma at the hospital. The announcement also reminded the students to be careful on their way back home. Yes, Li Wen. It was all my fault. I shouldn't have left him alone. There must be a better way. You know, I keep giving Li Wen shit for having so many problems that she keeps praying to God about. But, I mean, the girl owns a bloodthirsty tennis racket. Uncle Sun, Jimmy, now Mr. Wen. She definitely's got some problems. Speaking of Jimmy, and this explains why Mr. Wen does not have another letter again. But speaking of Jimmy, my name's Jimmy. I'm a transfer student. I arrived in Beijing not too long ago, and now I'm a senior at Yingnan High School. The reason I chose this school was because I had a serious crush on a girl here. Just a few days ago, I was fortunate enough to be her partner in a doubles tennis match on my first day at the school. At first, I was so thankful that I thought the goddess had finally smiled upon me. Yet I was totally embarrassed because I'd never even played tennis before. After that happened, I made up my mind. I was determined to improve my tennis skills, just in case I had another chance like this. I adjusted the serve speed of the ball machine, walked back to the baseline, raised my racket, and got ready. In order to get better, I had bought a season membership at a club. I even finished watching all 178 episodes of the Kid of Tennis anime. Because the manga was a lie, but the anime surely wouldn't lie to him. Never. I had complete faith in myself. I believed I could make it work this time. The next time I got to play with her, I would show off my kick serve, my pickup volleys, my drive D, and even my zero style slices to her. Is he going to do the Tezuka serve? Where he kills the dinosaurs? That's a Prince of Tennis thing. And she would look at me with admiration. The ball machine shot out the ball with a pong. The ball was flying at 140 kilometers per hour. That's probably going to be the thing we have to change between the two. If it doesn't fly as fast, it won't hit as hard. He won't be knocked out quite as badly. What a sneaky machine! How dare it serve the ball when I wasn't paying attention? Gosh, my wrist really hurts. The doctor said that I hurt my tendon. I needed to rest my right hand for at least a month. He said I shouldn't even use a mouse, not to mention playing tennis. No! Doctor, I want to play! My dear goddess of fortune, if you can hear me, please heal my wrist. If it's necessary, I will even swear off video games for a month as a sacrifice to you. That was not what I expected when he said he wanted to play. Please. Jimmy. As always, Jimmy's problems are of his own making. Can't you usually set the speed on the ball machines? But we could never make someone swear off video games for a month. So let's get to work. In these two letters, there are some special restrictions. Special restrictions? Yes. Remember when I told you that the white pieces could be moved anywhere? Except past the first and last black pieces in the letters, of course. Yes, I do remember. When special restrictions are in place, that'll no longer be the case. For instance, in these two letters, the two pieces 140 kilometers an hour and 180 kilometers an hour are in conflict with each other. That means they can't be moved to the same side. If you try to do so, they will automatically switch places with each other. Both pieces are labeled with a double-headed arrow, which stands for conflict. In addition to conflict, there are other special restrictions, such as sequence. We'll deal with that when we see it. Apparently we aren't all powerful. For now, you just need to remember that all of the pieces with special restrictions will be labeled with a red sign, like this on the right side. Okay, I'll keep an eye out for it. Imagine if we could have a ball flying at a speed of 180 kilometers an hour. Wait, no, that's possible. Speeds can decrease. Went from 140 to 180 all of a sudden. Oh, there it goes. We should also probably put the wind there to save his wrist. I think let's keep it at 180 kilometers an hour so it'll knock out the robbers. And we'll save Jimmy's wrist is what needs to be done here. I shuddered a little. Before I realized it, the ball was already right in front of me. I was so startled that I had to awkwardly block the ball with the racket. And I accidentally hit the sweet spot. It actually felt really great. Wait, did I just hit it? Yes, I had! I had just hit an underspin shot. Underspin, a technique in tennis where the ball is hit by slicing downward at the contact point, forcing it to have a backspinning rotation. It usually falls slower than a flat shot or a topspin shot. The advantage is that the ball will bounce in a backward direction once it hits the court, which could cause the opponent to whiff if not properly timed. However, a backspin is usually too slow, so if the trajectory goes too high, it could also easily go out or get volleyed. An ideal backspin should have very low clearance of the net to stay low and flat. Experienced players would often sneak in a backspin after a series of topspin or flat shots to disrupt the opponent's rhythm. Oh wow, I learned how to hit an underspin shot. Bonsai! Bonsai! I jumped up and down with excitement. People nearby were shooting me admiring, strange looks. What does bonsai mean? Was he hurt? No, bonsai is a Japanese phrase. It means hooray. Although, based on my observations, lots of people outside of Japan use this word as well. They're from many different countries, and most of them are men. Oh, and they share another common characteristic. Is Will gonna do it? Is Will gonna do it? What is that? They're all single. Boom! Will really put that burn out in the world. Have I mentioned that I love this game? Single? What's wrong with being single? That's true. everything. Being single hurts. Okay, not so much. In the end, Bonsai still means hurt, right? See? Bonsai means being single, and being single means it hurts. This is very straightforward. I think I'm single too. Bonsai. Okay, I wasn't quite expecting it to go there. I will credit Will with the nice save. But back to Li Wen. The ball hit the forehead of the tank top guy exactly as I planned. He fell down to the ground with a thud like a brick. Before the second man realized what had happened, I sprinted towards his back as fast as I could. I smashed his head in with my racket with all of my strength. I need to start a body counter for Li Wen's racket in the corner here. Just every time that racket smashes someone or causes bodily harm to someone, it'll go up 1. This counts as 4 and 5, by the way. Because we know of quantum universes, it hit hurting Mr. Wen still counts very much. Then I grabbed Mr. Wen's hand and ran towards the end of the alley. 10 minutes later, I was panting heavily and realized I had already run all the way back to my apartment building. Oh, and I was still holding Mr. Wen's hand. Mr. Wen, excuse me. This is where I live. I quickly let go of his hand. Well, I might as well do a home visit then. Shall we? Home visit? For a senior? By an art teacher? Mr. Wen, actually, there's no one else home. I walked in front of him and explained. Do your parents always work late? Mr. Wen looked up at me while climbing up the stairs. The sunlight coming through the windows in the hallway was making him squint. No, I live alone. I stopped in front of room 413. But Mr. Wen didn't follow me. He stopped in front of room 414. He pointed to the door next to him with his thumb and smiled. I suddenly remembered. The first day after I had moved in, the manager, Uncle Sun, had told me that a very famous artist from abroad had been living in the apartment next door. So that was him. We had actually met each other before. Well, I got the best ending for both of them. Powers of logic and deduction and whatnot. And were this any other game, any other story setting, I might be concerned about this kicking off a love triangle kind of thing between these three. Well, I guess it's not a love triangle, it's a love carrot, I guess you would call the shape. I certainly hope not. But at least, hey, Jimmy has learned how to tennis. Li Wen has murdered more people or hurt more people with her tennis racket. We'll call that a win. And we will call that it for this video. I don't know if, well, no, we don't need to get stars on all these. So next time, we'll check back in with Carlos and Youngmin here. Carlos going to Hong Kong to find his sister, and Youngmin starting his first day on the job as Justice Cop. We'll see you next time.